So you're thinking of relocating to the Carolinas, but you just don't know which one is for you, North Carolina versus South Carolina? That's what we're gonna cover in today's video. My name is Brandy Reinschmidt. I'm a local realtor here in Charlotte, and my team and I get calls, emails, and text messages every day from people just like you. So if you're thinking of relocating, give us a call. We'd love to help make your move just a little bit easier. And if this is your first time on our YouTube channel, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell so you can continue to learn like a local. Let's get into it. North Carolina versus South Carolina, which one's better? Well, why are people moving here for starters, right? We're going to talk about population here in just a second, but you have to understand why people are moving here. You are probably falling into one of these categories. People move here for job opportunities. People move here for the weather. People move here for the cost of living. People move here for the lifestyle. People love the Southern hospitality lifestyle. It's a slower pace, and perhaps if you live in New Jersey or New York, it's comfortable, it's affordable. So there are a ton of different reasons of why people relocate to the Carolinas. The size of the states. Well, North Carolina wins this one. Depends on if you like bigger or smaller, but North Carolina is bigger than South Carolina. North Carolina is coming in at 54,000 square miles versus South Carolina's 32,000 square miles. So it is around 1.6 times bigger than South Carolina. With the bigger state comes a larger population. North Carolina's population is coming in right under 10.8 million, where South Carolina's is reporting at just under half of that at 5.2. So why is this important? Because it'll feel totally different. North Carolina not only has a larger population and a larger landmass, but our population is more dense as well as diverse. North Carolina has more larger cities. So you can choose from Raleigh, you can choose from Charlotte, Cary and Greensboro, and even Wilmington. We have a bunch of these larger cities. Our two largest ones are obviously Raleigh and Charlotte. South Carolina doesn't have a ton of larger cities. They've got Myrtle Beach, they've got Charleston, not a lot of options. So what does that mean? Well, you can drive from city to city here in Charlotte and still be in the suburbs for quite an amount of time. What I notice is when you're driving from city to city in South Carolina, you're gonna feel a little bit more rural. So South Carolina is going to have a little bit more of a small town feel to it. You might come across more smaller towns. So just a very different vibe. So Charlotte definitely wins in the population and size category. With that, you're probably wondering about the cost of living. Median household income here in North Carolina is sitting at $60,800, where South Carolina's is just slightly lower, coming in at $58,000. The cost of living came in, the index says that North Carolina is just slightly higher, about 10% higher than living in South Carolina. When you're looking at the cost of living, the index weighs out a bunch of things. It takes really all the basic necessities that you need: childcare, transportation, groceries, housing, all your affordability items that you might need on a daily basis. It compiles all that stuff and kind of ranks it, and North Carolina is coming in at 10.7% more expensive than South Carolina. Our home prices here in North Carolina are just slightly higher, coming in at the average at $325,000 versus South Carolina is $305,000. Now this comes along, again, more population, larger cities. That's to be expected. And I want to kind of say this with a little bit of a disclaimer behind it. There's gonna be a few things like this in this video, where overall averaging North Carolina is coming in at a bit more expensive. However, let's say you're looking at Charlotte, for example. There's a town here on the South Carolina border. So Charlotte's right on the North and South Carolina border. Let's say you're looking here. There's a town right across the border here called Fort Mill that is actually more expensive than Charlotte, North Carolina. So while I'm providing you overall averages and general information, North Carolina versus South Carolina, if you are looking in specific cities, be sure to connect with someone local and review a lot of this information and just make sure it's comfortable for you. Don't make your decisions based on like a general assumption of things, because like we're seeing here in the Charlotte area, that's not always true. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there as we move on. You know, we talk about the cost of living and cost of housing and stuff. That is not true for every single North and South Carolina cities. We talked about how people move here for job opportunities. The economy in North Carolina is super, super strong. However, the economy in South Carolina is growing. Actually, South Carolina experienced, I believe, a 22% appreciation rate last year versus North Carolina only experienced a 19% appreciation rate. So South Carolina is growing at a really, really fast pace right now. I'm not quite sure why that is, because North Carolina, especially here in Charlotte, we are growing quite rapidly. We have over 100 people move here a day. Let's talk about the job opportunities. North Carolina is going to win this category. We have more larger headquarters here, such as Lowe's, Honeywell, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Red Ventures. I mean, we have so many headquarters here in all different types of industries, from tech to banking to medical. South Carolina does have a lot of large offices, such as like BMW, Michelin, GM. They're not the headquarters though, they're just kind of like a large office that's based out of there. A lot of the fields in South Carolina are manufacturing and trades work. We have a lot of like tech and banking up here in North Carolina, mainly because of like Raleigh and Charlotte. So Charlotte, North Carolina is going to win in that category, but there's still a lot of really good opportunities down in South Carolina, good employment opportunities down there. So just find out what area works best for you, especially if you're relocating for a job. We're gonna jump into the education system. This is probably, aside from like the cost of living and houses, this is probably the second highest topic that I get asked about is the education here. North Carolina versus South Carolina. If you just do a general Google, it's going to show that North Carolina ranks a bit higher than South Carolina in terms of education. We have higher test scores and higher graduation rates here in North Carolina. So while North Carolina does rank a little bit higher in the public schools education system, they are run the same way. They are all run in districts that an elective locally is voted to kind of run that district, be representative. People like that, you know, it's easier to kind of make change or put a policy in place and have a little bit of an opinion. In terms of universities, North Carolina does kind of take the winner in this one. North Carolina has a ton of higher education schools, really well known, especially over in the Triangle area, like Raleigh, Durham. We have Duke University, we have UNC Chapel Hill, we have North Carolina State. There's also a school over in Wilmington. So we've got really good universities here in North Carolina. Now, with that said, South Carolina does have Clemson, and it also does have a lot of like community colleges, you know, College of Charleston, it's got Meredith College. So South Carolina has more options for liberal arts or trade school colleges or community school colleges. North Carolina has more well-known larger universities. So it just depends on what you're looking for. Something that I kind of like to tell people is if you are from the North, get ready to pick a college team. College sports are huge in the South. I know I'm from Florida and it is a divided state. You are either a Gators fan or a Seminoles fan and there is no other option. So Charlotte really does, because we are kind of a southern state and we are such a melting pot, it's really fun. The college sports atmosphere is growing here. If you are a graduate of, say, Virginia Tech or UF or whatever, any school, honestly, any school, University of Pittsburgh, University of Penn State, there's always alumni groups here. So just make sure you hop on Facebook or, you know, you contact your school and find your alumni group because they all always gather here for college sports. And it's a really fun environment. So I wanted to put that out there if you're from the North. We learned when we lived in Pittsburgh, like college teams weren't a huge thing, but you're in the South now and they're a big deal. So that sums up the universities and the education side of it. Let's get into like the lifestyle. Let's get into the more casual things of it, what you might actually be moving here for and what life is like here. We're going to start with outdoor activities. This honestly is a personal preference. I can't even say who I would choose, which state I would choose to like better. The climate in North Carolina is slightly different than South Carolina in some terms, such as your variance and seasons are a little bit stronger here. So in the winter, you might get a couple days where you do get some snow, and in the summer, it is pretty hot and humid here. So your extremes are a little bit more here, but they're really not bad. Like it's not as hot as Florida and not as cold as anywhere else up north. But if you're in South Carolina, you're gonna have a little bit more consistency. You're gonna stay on the warmer side of things year round. We see less variances north to south here in North Carolina because we have such a wide state. We see more variances east to west. So if you go towards the mountains, you're obviously going to see snow, sometimes, you know, 8 to 10 inches in a day. Where here in Charlotte, we only see snow a couple times a year and it might be an inch or two and it kind of stays for the night and then it's gone the next day. It does turn into ice here, but you do get all 4 seasons here. So you get a stronger fall, a stronger winter, a stronger spring, and a stronger summer. Where in South Carolina, everything's going to be a little bit more consistent. Your variances in temperature are going to be a little less. So there's our climate. Outdoor activities. Now this one could be a deciding factor for you depending on your interest. If you are into the mountains, you're definitely going to want to head towards North Carolina. North Carolina, a third of the state is actually covered in mountain ranges. So you can go to Asheville, we've got the Blue Ridge Mountains, Pisgah, or you can just go 30, 45 minutes away from Charlotte and go hike Crotter's Mountain, Grandfather Mountain here. So if you are more of a hiker and you like to maybe go camping outdoors, North Carolina is going to be your cup of tea. We have a ton of mountains, a ton of hiking trails, and there's always all these little mountain towns that are there, like Blowing Rock and Banner Elk is a good ski resort there. So if you like winter sports, you know, if you're moving from up north, you like winter sports, you're definitely going to lean more towards the North Carolina side. Let's talk lakes. North Carolina takes the bacon in this one. North Carolina has 59 major lakes, where South Carolina actually only has 12 of those major lakes. And 2 of those major lakes are right here in Charlotte. Some people will say 3, Mountain Island Lake. I don't consider that a major lake life person. North Carolina takes that for sure. Let's switch gears to beaches, because this one, again, is going to be just your personal preference. Both North and South Carolina have beaches. They're very, very different. So North Carolina has the Outer Banks, which North Carolina actually has the most coastline in the East Coast over here. The Outer Banks are huge, and there are so many spots on it, so many different beaches that you can pull up and go to over there. Myself, living here in Charlotte for 8 years almost now, have never been to the Outer Banks. Why? Because it's a 6.5, 7-hour drive from Charlotte, and even it's about 4 hours from Raleigh. So it is a hike. It is a little bit of a hike. It's a drive, but I can make it down to Charleston or Hilton Head or South Carolina all in under 4 hours. So if I want to go to the beach, I'm probably going to head down to South Carolina. The beaches here in North Carolina, they tend to be a little bit more small town, a little bit more sleepy. They take a lot longer to get to. Like, you're gonna go down these windy roads, smaller, maybe 2-lane roads. The towns here maybe only gonna have like a couple restaurants, maybe like one convenience store to go to. Where in South Carolina, you've got towns like Charleston and Myrtle Beach. So you've got these bigger cities that are right on the water. So your hotel amenities are gonna be a bit more, your options for restaurants and Airbnbs, shops and activities to do while you're on those beaches, you're gonna have more of that there. With that comes obviously another type of industry. So tourism in South Carolina is much larger than North Carolina, at least in terms of beaches. Because of our limited availability and limited access and limited amenities here, the beaches on North Carolina, they can be a little touristy, but it's mainly like people from North Carolina are driving over there for a week or something. You're gonna notice a lot heavier tourism in the South Carolina beaches like Charleston and Myrtle Beach. We're not like a big destination here. Outer Banks I hear is gorgeous. You know, you have like the wild horses running, but it is a little bit harder to get to. So it takes a lot of planning, a lot of logistics. We were actually looking at planning our wedding at one of the houses on the Outer Banks, and it became a logistical nightmare because everything and everybody had to have a 4-wheel drive car. So you definitely have to plan for it. You know, if you're looking to do kind of a family get together and you just want a big house on the beach, quiet, you don't really need a ton of amenities and options, Outer Banks might be perfect for you. Wilmington is probably the closest city there, and even then, depending where you are, it is a drive. We stayed at Surf City before, and it was like a 45-minute drive into Wilmington. Wilmington is a smaller college town. It has that college town feel to it, and it's known for filming the Outer Banks show here. However, fun fact, a lot of that show is actually filmed out in Charleston. So, but that's Wilmington's claim to fame. So I don't know, it depends on your beaches. They are very different. North Carolina beaches are a little bit quieter, a little bit sleepier, where South Carolina is a little bit more busier, a little bit more nightlife, higher energy beach. So that one really is a true personal preference. Last but not least, let's talk about the taxes, right? You're relocating here, you got a job here, you're probably looking to buy a house here. You're gonna wanna know about the taxes. In general, North Carolina has higher state taxes versus South Carolina. North Carolina overall is actually coming at the 31st in the United States, and South Carolina is coming in at the 40th for taxes in the United States. Both states have an income tax. North Carolina is a graduated tax rate. This can be anywhere from 5.25% to 7.75%, where South Carolina has a flat rate of 7%. Neither state has a Social Security tax. And both states do have a sales tax. North Carolina is actually cheaper. Our sales tax here is 4.75%, where South Carolina sales tax is 6%. North Carolina and South Carolina property taxes. This one's huge. North Carolina does have a more expensive property tax. However, if you are purchasing a home in South Carolina, your property taxes will be cheaper, but it has to be on your primary residence. This is huge because let's say you're purchasing a home in South Carolina. Once you close, you have to take a document, one of your closing documents, or even a water bill sometimes, depending on the county, to a government office in South Carolina and register your home as a primary residence, or it will be taxed at the secondary home rate, the investment rate for taxes, which, depending on where you are at in South Carolina, can be up to 5 times the tax rate. So This one is huge. It is to deter investors. I don't know why, but South Carolina is not an investor-friendly state. So if you are purchasing a home, this is a huge difference. Yes, North Carolina's property taxes are higher than South Carolina if it is a primary residence. So there you have it. You've got the differences in North and South Carolina. It all depends on what you're looking for. Obviously, some of you are going to be relocation for work, which might limit where you're going to. But either way, you can't go wrong in either of the states. If you happen to be looking here in the Charlotte market, give my team and I a call. We'd love to help you out. If you have any questions, don't hesitate on reaching out. We're here. Drop comments or questions in the comments. And until next time.